Hi, how are you doing? This is James, ERSR. I'd like to just give you a heads up. This is going to be a desktop review on the subject of psychology of survival. It's an important subject. It goes along in the chapters. This chapter 2. And I want to hit it. It's not going to be exciting. I'm going to try to make it as exciting as I can, but there's only so much you can do with psychology.
Hi, this is James with the RSR. I had to do a little audio over because I had some feedback I couldn't explain. We're talking about FM 21-76, Psychology of Survival, Chapter 2. Dig in. It takes much more than knowledge and skills to build shelters, get food, make fires, and travel without the aid of standard navigation devices. To live successfully through the survival situation, some people with little or no survival training have managed to survive life-threatening circumstances. Some people with survival training have not and died. A key ingredient in any survival situation is the mental attitude of the individuals involved. Having survival skills is important. Having the will to survive is essential. Without the will to survive, acquired skills serve little purpose and invaluable knowledge goes to waste. There is a psychology to survival. The soldier in a survival environment faces many stresses that ultimately impact on his mind. These stresses can produce thoughts and emotions that, if poorly understood, can transform a confident, well-trained individual into an indecisive, ineffective individual with questionable ability to survive. Thus, every individual must be aware and be able to recognize those stresses commonly associated with survival. Additionally, it is imperative that each individual be aware of their reactions to a wide variety of stresses associated with survival. A look at stress. Before we can understand our psychological reactions in survival settings, it is helpful to first know a little bit about stress. Stress is not a disease that you can cure and eliminate. Instead, it's a condition we all experience. Stress can be described as a reaction to pressure. It is a name given to its experience we have as we physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually respond to life's tensions. Need for stress. When we stress because it has many positive we need stress because it has many positive benefits. Stress provides us with challenges. It gives us chances to learn about our values and strengths. Stress can show our ability to handle pressure without breaking. It tests our adaptability and flexibility. It can stimulate us to do our best because we usually do not consider unimportant events stressful. Stress can also be an excellent indicator of significance we attach to an event. In other words, it highlights what is important to us. We need to have some stress in our lives, but too much of anything can be a bad thing. The goal is to have stress, but not to an excessive point. Okay, here I'm going to give an example of stress and your mental state and well-being. So this large tennis ball is represented of your mental state and well-being. Me pressing on that ball represents stress impacting your mental state. Now the ball comes back to its original form when I release. So once the stress is released, your mental state and well-being return. Now the goal is to find a way to mitigate your stress so that you could overcome the stress, get rid of it, and return back to your zero state. Now the more you get comfortable with certain tasks, that stress isn't going to be as impactful as it once was, and you'll be able to bounce back from it. And this is true for everything. So you impact stress every day, and some stresses you've built skills towards, and you've learned how to mitigate them, and you're able to become resilient in coming back from those stresses. Some stresses, they're a little bit more impactful. Major events such as getting lost, they're not gonna be as easy to overcome. They take a little bit longer to bounce back from, but you can bounce back from them. So this little plastic toy is representing the delay in some stresses in coming back to zero. So unlike the tennis ball, which was designed to bounce back, which is everyday stress that you encounter, survival stresses, you're not accustomed to that. It's not something you plan on, so it's going to take a little bit to come back from that, especially when you're out and everything you do isn't working, your expectations aren't meeting, and sometimes you could have some stressors that are very impactful. If you are with someone, they get injured, hurt, sick, or they die, you're injured, hurt, or sick. Those things, they're going to take a lot longer to come back from, especially with the death. So be aware of that. Now, you can come back from them. They do take a while to come back from, and this is just a demonstration of resilience. So take it for what it's worth. The more you put in your toolbox, the more you learn how to mitigate stresses that impact you, the better you're going to be prepared for in a survival situation when you need to get back from stress quickly. Too much stress can take its toll on people. Too much stress leads to distress. Distress causes uncomfortable tensions that we try to escape and preferably avoid, like that tomato. Listed below are a few common signs of distress you may find your fellow individuals or yourself in when faced with too much stress: difficulty making decisions, angry outburst, forgetfulness, low energy level, constant worrying, propensity for mistakes, thoughts about death or suicide, trouble getting along with others, withdrawing from others, hiding from responsibilities, carelessness. As you can see, stress can be constructive or destructive. It can encourage or discourage, moving us along or stop us dead in our tracks and make life meaningful or seemingly meaningless. Stress can inspire you to operate successfully, perform at your maximum efficiency in a survival situation. It can also cause you to panic and forget all your training. Key to your survival is your ability to manage the inevitable stress that you will encounter. The survivor is the individual who works with his stresses instead of letting his stresses work on him. Often, stressful events occur simultaneously. These events are not stresses, but they produce it and are called stressors. Stressors are the obvious cause, while stress is the response. Once the body recognizes the presence of a stressor, it then begins to act to protect itself. In response to a stressor, the body prepares to either fight or flee. This preparation involves an internal SOS sent throughout the body. As the body responds to the SOS, several actions take place. The body releases stored fuels, sugars and fats, to provide quick energy. Breathing rate increases to supply more oxygen to the blood. Muscle tension increases to prepare for action. Blood clotting mechanisms are activated to reduce bleeding from cuts. Senses become more acute. Hearing becomes more sensitive. Eyes become big. Smell becomes sharper, so that you are more aware of your surroundings, and heart rate and blood pressure rise to provide more blood to the muscles. This protective posture lets a person cope with potential dangers. However, a person cannot maintain such a level of alertness indefinitely. One stressor does not leave because another one arrives. Stressors add up. The cumulative effect of minor stressors can be a major distress if they all happen too close together. As the body's resistance to stress wears down and the source of stress continue or increase, eventually a state of exhaustion arrives. At this point, the ability to resist stress or use it in a positive way gives out and signs of distress appear.
Oh, look at where did all those come from? Oh no.
Injury, illness, or death. Injury, illness, or death are real possibilities a survivor has to face. Perhaps nothing more stressful than being alone in an unfamiliar environment where you could die from hostile action, an accident, or from eating something lethal. Illness, injury can also add to stress by limiting your ability to maneuver, get food and drink, find shelter, and defend yourself. Even if illness and injury don't lead to death, they add to the stress throughout the pain and discomfort they generate. It is only by controlling the stresses associated with the vulnerability to injury, illness, and death that an individual can have the courage to take risks associated with survival tasks. Uncertainty and lack of control. Some people have trouble operating in a setting where everything is not clear-cut. The only guarantee in a survival situation is that nothing is guaranteed. It can be extremely stressful operating on limited information in a setting where you have limited control of your surroundings.
Lack of control. You have no control over anything. You don't even have a control of your emotions. So you gotta start gaining control over small things. Start building momentum in your favor. Your environment. It could be windy. It could be extremely hot, extremely cold. You could be wet. You could be underclothed, overclothed. I guess overclothed wouldn't be really a big issue. Also have the animals and dangerous reptiles that may be present. Lack of water, lack of food, which brings us into hunger and thirst. Without food and water, you'll start getting weak and you'll eventually die. Thus, getting and preserving food and water becomes more and more important during the length of time that you need to survive. So, for the purposes of what I'm aiming for, this is intended not for long-term survival, weeks, months, like this manual is intended for, but it's for the weekend individual getting away, having a fun time. So, yeah. Wow. Okay. So if you're going out for the weekend, you get lost, you get injured, you get sick, and you become stuck, and you're in a survival situation. This is what I'm gearing for. So you want to try and self-rescue or get rescued within the first 24 hours. And first 24 hours are going to be painful. You're not the most okay. Wow. So I don't know where we left off. So we're going to go to hunger and thirst. Without food and water, a person will weaken and eventually die. Thus, getting and preserving food and water is vital. All right. Fatigue. Realistically, you're not going to sleep the first night. You're stranded. So let's not pretend you are. That's just going to add to your fatigue. The next day, you're going to be hurting a little bit more. You're going to be moving slower. You're going to have compounded stresses on you. And you're going to notice everything that's bothering you. Isolation. So if you're alone, isolation is definitely going to kick in. If you're with a group and you have someone else there, or with at least another person, you have someone to talk to, you won't be alone racing through your own mind. So there is benefits to being with other people. But if you are by yourself, then you're gonna feel, get it out of your mouth. Take it out. Take it out. Give it to me. No. You're not gonna eat that. You want a cookie?
Hat.
You want a hat?
Hey, hat.
Hot? Is hot? Oh wow, see? This is the kind of company I have that's with you. Hot. Hot.
Okay. Mmm.
Daddy, oh, good.
Yeah, it's good.
Daddy, mommy.
I've been making this video for
Daddy.
this specific video for about 4 or 5 days now.
Daddy, Daddy,
Num num. Mmm.
mm.
And this is the furthest I got, so we'll just keep it on. All right.
Daddy,
So yeah, nummy. Mmm. All right. Yes. Isolation sucks. It really does.
Daddy,
Yummy. Corn. Mmm.
Daddy,
Num. Alright, we're moving on. Open. It's open. Uh-oh. Alright, come on in. Typed and printed or just printed?
Typed and printed.
Alright. We will stop here and pick up. Alright, so we're good. Take 21. Alright, so now we're going to be talking about fear. Fear is our emotional response to dangerous circumstances we believe to be potential to cause death, injury, or illness. This harm is not just limited to our physical damage, but to emotional and mental well-being, and also generate fear. So basically, fear is a byproduct of, well, no, it's fear. Fear is fear. It's when you feel that there's potential for illness, injury, or death to your well-being. Fear's a good thing, though. It causes you to be cautious in situations that could cause injury. But too much fear can immobilize you, so you need to overcome your fears. So things that would cause you to be fearful, train and gain the skills in those items, in those tasks, to help you overcome it and mitigate the fear factor. Anxiety is associated with fear because it's a natural response. It's natural for us to be afraid, and anxiety can be an uneasy feeling. We also get anxiety when we're faced with physical, mental, and emotional stress. It's a motivator, but it's also an inhibitor. Anger and frustration. You're going to be angry and you're going to be frustrated in the fact that your initial plans of getting home are going to be changed. You're not going to want to spend one night out there. You're going to want to keep moving. If you accept the fact that you're lost and stop and set up camp, and you know you got to get a fire going and a shelter, and those simple tasks are proving to be daunting, you're going to get frustrated. So that frustration is going to add to your stresses. Just take a moment, pause, regain your composure. Is what you're doing absolutely crucial? And more importantly, is it going to happen? So if it's not absolutely crucial, is there a better way of doing things? Is there an alternative? If there is, go with the alternative. Return to the task that you're having difficulty with later. And then you got depression. Depending on your circumstances, this could hit at any point during your survival scenario. You're going to be out there, you're going to start feeling depressed, you're going to start feeling down. It's a natural thing. Don't
allow it to drag you all the way down. Once you start feeling yourself getting depressed, wandering your mind, get on task with something. There's a lot of things to do. Start doing something. Focus your thoughts on productive things. Alright, loneliness and boredom. If you're by yourself, you're not going to have a lot of things that you have in your daily life that are going to keep you entertained. You got to stay focused. Focus on positive things. Focus on nearsighted goals, what you still need to accomplish. Keep your mind positively engaged so you don't revert back to depression. And stay focused and know you're in a survival situation, so everything you do counts. And there are things that you can do that can hurt you, that could go against your ultimate goal of surviving and making it home. Guilt, guilt's going to be there. Especially if you're in a situation where you're with others and you survived and they may not have, or someone else that you're with got injured and you didn't. There's a lot of reasons for the guilt. Maybe you chose the path that got you lost. So learn your skills, become proficient with it, and that'll help mitigate a lot of the stresses you'll face in that situation. And learn different ways and methods of basic crafts. Learn different ways to start a fire. Now, I'm not saying go out there and learn how to do a bow drill, but learn different methods, from lighter to your ferro rod to magnifying glass, stuff that will work and doesn't consume a lot of energy in making it work. Know how to actually make a shelter, make some bedding, find a way to reduce the insects from bothering you at night. Learn how to stay warm, insulated, shaded, hydrated. Learn all this stuff in a controlled environment where you have control of the environment. So learn your skills before you need them. That's basically what I'm getting at, because skills are very important and they help reduce stress to a degree. You're going to be faced with stress, but it'll help you bounce back from all the stresses that you're going to encounter. Build up your resilience. Yeah. Anticipate fears. Alright, so don't pretend nothing's going to scare you, because fear is a natural thing. It's going to happen. It's going to keep you cautious. It's going to keep you safe. And if the stuff that really scares you, if you work on things to mitigate that fear of survival, then you'll be better prepared to face it, and it won't be as daunting. So my fear would be in a survival situation, being soaking wet in a rainstorm, sleet storm, in a cold environment. That would be one of the fears I would face, and I would have to train myself to help myself survive in that environment. So hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Unrealistic expectations lay the groundwork for bitter disappointment. So if you set yourself up a great expectation and that expectation is not met, you're going to be hit with a fast disappointment. And that disappointment's going to work against you psychologically, and it's going to be a major stressor. So set up realistic expectations. Stay positive. Adopt a positive attitude. Train. Practice. Take your knowledge, put it to the test. Learn stress management techniques. So learn how to cope with anxiety, learn how to deal with stress, learn how your body responds to those anxiety and stress levels. Keep that will to survive, because even if you have all the tools and all the skills that you need, you have everything with you, and you have the perfect environment, if you give up, you could end up dead, and all those skills, all that training, all that equipment, it had done you no good. So